Hey y'all, welcome to Coyote Trapping School podcast episode number 9. This episode we're going to talk about getting permission, finding places to trap. So let's dive right into it. First off, you may not need permission to trap. You know, there's a lot of public land, depending on where you're at. There's definitely public land available, a lot more so in the west than in the east. You know, like Georgia, there's not really a lot of options for public land. We've got a lot of public land that's open to hunting through state-managed wildlife management areas, but those are very limited on the availability of trapping. And so there are some wildlife refuges that may be open to trapping. You may have to get a permit, but you know, national forest typically is open to trapping during trapping season, and there's definitely national forests around in the east. But all that, of course, double check with your state regulations. But those are definitely some good places to look for some trap land that may be open to trapping. And then, depending on where you live, some states allow roadside trapping, so trapping of creeks and ditches, or I guess I should say right-of-way trapping. So trapping in the road right-of-way or the highway right-of-way. So a lot of that is around creeks and ditches, trapping coons and beavers and otters and muskrats, any of that where you've got a creek that's crossing under a bridge on a road, and so you can pull off, go down and sit within the 40 feet or 30 feet or whatever the right of way is and be legal there. The caveat, concern, issue with trapping on public land is you're trapping on public land. Anybody has access. So, that should dictate how you trap and how you set up your trap line. So, like I said, with national forests, there's some national forest land around here that I could go and I could set traps on. But any other Joe Blow is liable to ride down the roads, and if I'm sitting close to the roads, they may not recognize my set, but if I make a catch, they're going to see where I made a catch and may cue them in. They may steal my catch, steal my equipment. So definitely you need to use some caution and probably change your tactics. If you're trapping public land, you want to probably put in more discreet sets. Probably going to use cheaper equipment because of the option of it possibly getting stolen. And then you may opt for things like a drag or like a slide wire, kind of like a drowning wire. There may be another name for it, but kind of like a drowning wire, but it's a one-way lock that goes off into the bushes or something to get an animal that gets caught right off from the roadside or the main travel path. Because like I said, anybody else is liable to pass through, and they may see your critter or whatever you caught, and they may try to take your critter, may try to take your equipment, all the above, none of the above. They may cause a stink. They may wait for you there, could try to harass you because you're trapping and they don't understand it. So for all those reasons and more, I typically tend to shy away from public land trapping, just because there's so many people here in the east. I know there's a lot of guys out west that they primarily target, and that's where their trap lines are on public land, but they can pick areas that are less traveled and make that work well for them. So the other issue is there's so much private land that's around here that is open and available if you're willing to ask. So you may have family land, you may have a hunting lease or something like that you already have access, and that maybe that's all that you want to trap, and that's fine. If you've got a 1,200 acre deer lease and you got a dozen traps and you got a week or a couple weekends to trap, man, that's going to be perfect. That's going to be right up your alley. You're going to catch some game, and that ought to keep you busy. If you're trying to trap all season and you're wanting to keep a trap line going, even kind of a after work or before work kind of hobby trap line, which is usually what I do, you still need to have some a good bit of land lined up, and so I get that through trying to make connections, knocking on doors, and securing permission. So the best option for doing that is just as you're out riding around, you probably already have in mind a couple of farms or a couple of areas that you think, man, that'd be a good place to trap. One, kind of obvious thing and kind of gives you a good in is if you know somebody and you know the farmer, you know the president of that deer lease, or you know somebody that's in the hunt club that could, you might could talk to and get permission there. So the other option is if you're starting off with a clean slate, don't really have any contacts, but you identified a couple of pieces of property that you're interested in. Your next step is to figure out who the landowner is and how you get in touch with them and go about asking permission. So one way to do that is you can go to your courthouse or your tax office, and there'll be plat maps, and you can look up the parcel, the map that'll show an outline of the property and give you the owner's name and address. That's kind of an old school way to do it. You can definitely do it that way. Now, I hate to say most, a lot of places have all their property and plat maps and tax maps online, available, a lot of them for free. One popular website, at least from where I've been, is called QPublic. So if you'll just type in whatever your county name is, tax assessor, then the tax assessor's page will pop up, and it may give you an option for a map or a property search or something like that, and you can click on that, and if you know a last name, you can search by last name, or if you want to just search by map and kind of pan and scroll to your area. Usually they'll have some pretty decent aerial photos on there, and you can zoom around and look for the area that you're looking for, and then again you can click on it and it'll tell you the landowner's name and address. You won't get a phone number, but in my experience, I've had a lot better luck in person talking to people and being successful getting permission than over the phone. It's a lot easier for somebody to tell you no over the phone versus if you're standing in front of them and you can kind of converse with them a little bit and try to kind of build a relationship with them right there versus if you call them up on the phone, they probably don't want to talk to you anyways, and so you're kind of starting off on the wrong foot. So that's one option for getting finding out who the landowner is. And then there's probably a lot more, but there's several apps that are available on your phones that do the same thing. So Onyx Hunt, if you listen to very many podcasts, you probably heard them before on some of the hunting podcasts, but they you have to subscribe. So most of the apps have some kind of subscription fee, and you have to subscribe. I was trying to think if it's I think it's $30 maybe, and you get a year subscription for one state. You can download, if you're going to be in a remote area, you can download parcels to see where private land, public land, or different land ownerships are. But you can also use that to access who the owner may be. And so Onyx Hunt, and then Land Glide's another one that I know of that you can kind of scroll around or have your GPS following you as you're riding down the road, and you come up on that side of that farm and you see that it's a 160-acre block, and that's the one I want. Click on it, and it's going to tell you the name and the address. One catch to that may be with some of the larger land ownerships, the timberland ownerships, or some of the larger farms. A lot of times that stuff is not in a personal name or a person's name. It may be in a company name. So it may be, so-and-so LLC. And sometimes that'll still have a local address, but sometimes it'll just have a P.O. box, or it won't necessarily have a local address. So in that case, that's when you kind of got to do a little more digging, and I'll try to start looking around and seeing if I can see anybody, if it's an area that I can, even if it's a little bit out of the way, but I can kind of go that way and try to see if I can catch somebody out there working cows or cutting hay or something like that where I can, I can stop in, try not to interrupt them while they're working, but stop in and introduce myself and try to see if they lease the property, if they own the property, if they do know the property owners. So I think as we go forward, that's going to be more and more common that you're finding, especially large parcels and large ownerships that are in some kind of corporate name or company name versus a person's name. So that's just something to keep in mind going forward, and something that can be a good option, even if you're not familiar, if you haven't looked up the owner or anything like that, but you ride by and see a guy out there cutting hay, pull in and say, hey, I was just curious, trapper and wanting to trap some coyotes and some beavers, and was going to see if this is your property, talk to you about permission. And so even if it's not theirs, they should be able to point you in the direction of whose it is. And so that kind of leads into a little of the kind of the etiquette or the pitch, if you will, I guess. When I get it down to a landowner name, and I know I'm going to go and knock on their door and try to talk to them and ask them ultimately for permission to trap, there's several things. I always try to dress nice. I don't go up in a 3-piece suit, but I'll usually try to do a collared shirt and tucked in, and not have a bunch of mud and gunk and grime on me. Look presentable and be nice, dress nice. If I can clean my truck up a little bit, or it doesn't look like I've been mud bogging, you got to keep in mind these people are giving you permission to go out on their property, and so if your truck's covered in mud like you've just been out to the mud bog, they're probably not going to be real excited about you driving around their fields in December when it's muddy and sloppy out there. They're going to be thinking that sucker's going to be out there rutting my field up and joyriding, and so that may get you a no right off the bat. And then be polite. As you knock on the door, you're inconveniencing somebody very potentially, interrupting their day. So, try to be polite and recognize that you are asking a favor from them. And I also try to time it, and be particular about when I do go. So, sometimes I'll try to target hidden several farms and going after church when, maybe say 2 o'clock after they've already went to church and come home and had their dinner, and hopefully they're not taking a nap, because you don't want to interrupt them taking a nap. But if you catch them while they're out in the middle of their work day, or the trucks broke down or the tractors broke down or something like that, and maybe in a bad mood, and that's not going to set you off to a good start. So keeping that in mind. And then also, if you get an in, so to speak, so if you've got permission from Farmer John down the street, and you go a couple blocks over, and you knock on the door and you say, hey, for one, you can ask Farmer John if he knows of anybody that might be willing to give you permission to trap. And then 2, when you go and knock on Farmer Ed's door, you can say, hey, Mr. Ed, Farmer John down the street gave me permission to trap coyotes on his place, and I was just going to check with you and see if you'd be willing to let me trap coyotes on your place. And so that's usually what I lead in with, is either talking about coyotes or beavers or both, because a lot of times those are the scourge of farmers in general. Large landowners don't tend to like those, and so if you and depending on where you're at, a lot of people around here think that if you're coming and looking for that you're going to want to be paid to trap. So that's something that can put somebody in a standoffish mood right off the bat. Is, man, I ain't going to pay you to trap my beavers. They ain't been bothering me that bad. But so keep that in mind, that you want to make sure that they don't get the implication, or they're not assuming that you want to be paid to trap if you're not wanting to be paid to trap. If you are wanting to be paid to trap, hey, more power to you. That's awesome. But generally I'm not. I'm looking for permission to trap, and I don't want somebody to think that they've got to pay me for me to trap. So like I said, having an in, knowing somebody is always a plus. And these farmers, at least in my area, is kind of an old dairy farm area, and so all these farmers know each other. And so it's usually, as long as the farmer likes the other one, which is not always the case, but usually that's a good sign, and kind of gets you off on the right foot. Oh yeah, well, John's letting you trap. Yeah, you can go on, you can trap in here. You must be trustworthy. So that's always a good thing. And then don't hesitate to spend some, plan on spending some time there talking about them, ask them about things. You're trying to build a relationship, so don't come across as, hey, can I trap here or not? If not, see ya. If yes, all right, good, see ya. Take time, talk to them about trapping. They may be interested about trapping. A lot of times they'll go into, oh yeah, well, my uncle used to trap around here, and down there by the spring and the branch, and spend time with them there. Talk to them about it. Talk about what their uncle did with the furs and how they did it, and chances are they think you're making a lot of money trapping. That's why you're coming to ask permission to trap. So that could be something you could bring up, that fur prices are down, or this and that, or this is what I got for I got $3 for my coons last year, or something like that. That way they think you're crazy, and they know you're not out there trying to make a mint off of them. But anyway, be responsive to their questions. Be sure to talk to them about I'll be sure to close all the gates and stay off of your bean field. And if it rains, I'll walk into my traps, or I'll use a 4-wheeler, or whatever. Like I said, they're letting giving you permission to get out there on their property, and that can be, you can definitely take advantage of that and do a lot of harm and do a lot of detriment. You don't want to do that. You want to make sure that they know you're not going to do that. One thing I tend to shy away from is talking to them about hunting. Depending on who it is, if it's a farmer, typically they don't really care a lot. But if you're talking to a hunt club or something like that, I don't want to give anybody the impression that that I'm going to be out there trying to look at their deer, trying to poach their deer, or anything like that. So I tend to be careful about hunting. I don't want anybody to get the impression that I'm going to be trying to hunt while I'm out there trapping. I'm there to trap, and that's it. So that can be something, and also you got to keep in mind that it's your integrity basically is what it boils down to. So if you're out on that hunting club and you see a muy grande buck, you're not shooting it. You're letting it pass. You're letting it walk, and you're going and telling hey man, I saw this monster buck here, whatever, because you don't want to jeopardize. You don't want to jeopardize your reputation. You don't want to jeopardize, your future being able to trap there and other places, because, once you get a bad reputation, that's going to spread pretty quickly, and that's not going to be good for you. One thing I always like to do is have a business card with me with my phone number, and really that's about all you need, your phone number. But just so I can give it to them and say, hey, if you have any questions, if you have any concerns, if you start seeing beavers chewing in your pond, or you start seeing muskrats digging in your pond dam before trapping season, give me a call. Make sure that they know that you appreciate what you're doing and what they're doing, giving you permission, and you're willing to help. And also along with that is be willing to help. If you go by there and you see them out there working on the tractor, pull in and see if they need a hand. Pull in and see if it needs a cold water. Just again, you're building a relationship, so treat it like that. They're giving you something. Make sure that there's some give and take. And one thing that I found that's kind of helpful is at the end of the season, after you get done trapping, if you'll send them a little note or stop in there and show them a picture, or hey, I caught 3 coyotes off of here, and I caught 2 beavers out of the pond, or whatever. They like to hear that. They like to talk, know that, and talk with their buddies about that. And that also goes to you do a good job on Farmer Jim's place, and catch his beavers that were eating his trees, and he's going to tell his other buddies, and that could very realistically open up more doors to you, easier than you knocking on doors could, really and truly. So like I said, be willing to stop in and talk with them and spend some time. A lot of times, sometimes the old farmers, they want to talk. They want to sit around and talk, and you get 45 minutes or an hour in pretty quick without even realizing it. So just keep that in mind. Just do the right thing and be polite, and it'll open a lot of doors. And then once you do get a few of those doors open, and you do go through a trapping season and you make some catches, and those guys start talking, your name's going to get around, and you're probably going to have some people that start calling you. So that's definitely a plus. And when you got people that are calling you, that's always helpful, and less stressful and less worrisome, you having to kind of figure out who you need to go talk to and all this. So that's about it. As far as permission, make sure you got permission, and make sure you're doing what you can. If you're wanting to run a pretty good trap line, you better have some acres tied up, and you probably ought to have more acres than you think you need tied up, because who knows what's going to happen, and somebody's family comes home, and here in Georgia, our deer season runs through the first part of our trapping season, so a lot of people don't want you trapping They don't want you out there during deer season, even though they probably ain't hunting in the middle of December. But maybe around Christmas, they'll be back out there or something. So that's definitely something to keep in mind with the holidays and how people may be hunting or using their land and how they may want to, want you in there or not in there. So making sure you've got enough options and alternatives to kind of cover that. So anyway, if you're in the East, definitely it shouldn't be too hard to pick up some private land to trap. Just be polite, be nice, look nice, and you can get it done. And it always does help to know instead of going and knocking on somebody's door and saying, hey, do you own this place? I always like and feel like it looks better on you if you knock on the door and say, yes sir, is Mr. So and so in? And that just makes you look a little bit more professional and goes a little bit longer, in my opinion, in your reputation. So anyway, hope this is helpful. Hopefully y'all are wrapping up and getting plenty of permission out there. I need to get a couple extra farms lined up myself, so I'll be putting this stuff into practice here very soon. So we'll see you next time. Hey, I just wanted to say thanks for watching, thanks for following, thanks for listening, ever how you're consuming this. And if you want to show some support, I appreciate your support of just watching, leaving comments, and interacting with me. If you want to show a little support and help support the podcast, the YouTube channel, and the trapping endeavors and us bringing you the content, be sure to go to CoyoteTrappingSchool.com. We've got an online store there where we have some Coyote merchandise. So if you need a Lucky Trapping hat, we got you covered there. If you need a little more luck on the trap line, got some Coyote Trapping School hats, shirts, gloves, bags. We also carry some Minnesota Trap Line products, baits, lures, and urines. Top quality stuff that I use on my trap line every year, and also sell those in packages. So if you're interested in getting started and you don't really know what baits or lures to use, you can buy one of the packages that we've got, that I've got kind of pre-selected. That's a great starting point to get out there and start catching game. Also, if you're new to trapping and want to learn more about it, want a clear, concise, and central location to learn how to do it, the Coyote Trapping 101 course that I put together takes you from start to finish, from the bottom up. So far, what gear you need, how to set a trap, where to set traps, and how to set your traps, and even what to do after you catch your animal, your coyote, skin it, marketing your furs, and all that. Like I said, all that's in one central location. If you're tired of trying to piece together and part together YouTube videos and forum comments and different things, go to this one central place. Soon we'll be adding different species: raccoon, bobcat, beaver, otter, fox, to try to make that a well-rounded trapping library, not just specifically coyote trapping, but if you're interested in trapping, that's the place that you can go to and watch the videos that you need when you need them on your time, and learn specifically how to get started trapping. So be sure that's also on the website at Coyote Trapping School. Be sure to check that out, and I appreciate y'all following along. I appreciate the support, and I hope y'all are killing it on the trap line. Good luck this season.